Now, Patrick is a business coach and a serial entrepreneur who left the tech world to fulfill his passion for helping others realize their entrepreneurial dreams. And he really does that. He's an amazing coach. With a background deeply rooted in the world of technology and business, he transitioned in a role into a role as consultant, coach, and motivational speaker, dedicating his expertise to empowering individuals and businesses to achieve their highest potential through app solutions. Now, this is something we haven't talked about. We all think that having an app is going to cost us, a huge amount of money, and it's way beyond what we can do. And there just aren't that many people talking about it. So I'm really, really interested in hearing what Patrick has to say. He's a dynamic and inspirational expert in the field of entrepreneurship, passionate about guiding others towards their goals and showing them the potential of apps as tools. So without ado, I'm going to bring Patrick on. Well, Patrick, first, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your path to this point, because you are, an expert on the app who is actually showing up sideways right at the moment.
I think I should start by saying that I'm having, even though I have a lot of years in tech and my educational background is in tech.
We will just start with start the show.
Yeah, so I'm having a lot of tech issues today too. So, and one thing that I'll say is that I'm actually having to connect via my mobile device. So we're gonna have to switch things up a little bit here.
Got it. That's okay. We will adapt.
So I think it'd be great to actually kind of switch up to where we have a little bit of a conversation, really. That's okay with you, Demont?
Yeah, absolutely. And you are one of the people who I know really understands the new kinds of opportunities that come from having a tool, having your own app. I mean, it's amazing. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about, Actionera, because that's this company that has built this app. I have it. And I literally, managed to get this up, and I think everybody does within a few weeks. It's not a difficult process. It's made so easy for us because I knew nothing about apps.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think the best place to start is to really explain a little bit about why I'm actually involved with Actionera, because as you mentioned, and as I mentioned already a little bit. So I do have, a background in tech, and at the same time, it's not what I do mainly, right? So mine mostly revolves around helping entrepreneurs who are stuck and turning around businesses. So I'm really a turnaround coach. So I go into businesses that are failing, aren't getting the results that they want. Oftentimes, my sweet spot are entrepreneurs who are in their 50s, typically, is who
50-ish.
Yeah, that's like the median. And I get people who are different range, but really people who are to the point where what they really want is things to just start going their way more. And frankly, what it boils down to is freedom, right? And at the end of the day, what most everybody wants is freedom and to make an impact. My journey took me from in my early 20s, building a company to a multi-million-dollar, about a $5 million pre-money valuation that was kind of an overnight success. And at the same time, I was a farm boy from Ohio, who I grew up on a goat farm. There were a lot of issues there, and early on, I had been basically disowned from the family, and I I left and I went to LA, right? And so I had a lot of challenges, but I did know how to, I still was able to build this company. But at the end of the day, the company ended up collapsing just a couple of years later, and collapsed in part because I was working really hard on everything but myself. But really, the main reason that it collapsed, well, that was the main reason, okay, was me and my insecurities and not being a great leader, listening.
Yeah.
So, but it could have gone on and I might have a different path other than where I ended up. Was I actually ended up falling so far that I landed on Skid Row in LA. I actually was homeless for a year and a half. I had to recover from that. But at the end of the day, really, and that's a good thing that happened for me personally in my life, because I needed to get knocked down a few pegs. We've already gone through several of those things, and maybe 50, whatever age, have your business to the point of where it's just kind of killing you. Work with. It comes down to a similar issue that I had back then, which was cash flow, right? Not being able to get in the money. And as entrepreneurs, and of course, as someone I've coached hundreds of entrepreneurs, and so much of it is about the mindset and the focus and the clarity. And it's about keeping the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is fueling the jet, as I like to say, right? So you can have all kinds of really great ideas and all kinds, you can have a great product. You can you could be the most amazing, for instance, coach or author or widget maker, whatever it is. You can be the most amazing of those in the world. But at the end of the day, if you're not making money, it doesn't matter, right? And so often we get caught up in things like, oh, I've got to go and make a whole bunch of Facebook content, and that's what I'm doing. Or I've got to go and, like, what I did was I got caught up in building our CRM, right? Thing. But at the end of the day, the most important thing was doing the things that it took to bring them in money. Because I like to, as I said, kind of fueling the jet. The way that I look at it and the way that I kind of teach this concept is, if you think about the fact that you're kind of piloting this plane, right? And it's on the runway. Well, so many people think that, it's easy to think that it's the plane that is our product. But in reality, our product is what we bring and the impact that we're making with it. So it's taking, so we have to load that on the plane, right? So let's say, like yourself, for instance, you are really out there helping people create their brand, understand how their works, right? And I know you, Dumont, have several different packages, if you will, and I mean, things are putting on the jet, right? Most like things that you're doing to help people to take their business to the next level themselves, and those are changing things for an entrepreneur, right? So we need to get them where they need to go, and where they need to go is in front of the actual end user or the student, the customer, the client, whatever it is. But it's really easy to get caught up on, making the plane fancy, when in reality, what we need to do is load our stuff up on the plane and take off. The plane is just a vessel.
Yeah, got it.
And the thing is, money is energy. Right? Money is or motivator. And so it's, of course, important for people to understand why they're doing what they're doing. You have a why. Why, not just why we're flying, not why they're flying the plane, but why it's critical that the plane gets where it's going, that the product gets off of it and it gets in the hands and in front of the people that need it. And so, money is energy. It's fuel for the jet. Okay. It's not the ultimate win is having the money. It's actually just gets us more energy so that we can get our message out more and we can make more impact. All humans want to make impact. We are hardwired.
Yeah.
We're social creatures. We're hardwired to support one another. And so
true.
Right. And so that the thing that's missing, though, that keeps from getting the money, getting the fuel, it's one simple thing. I mean, so many people can say, oh, well, I'm not, like I said, oh, well, the financial markets collapsed. That's why it didn't happen. Or I don't have the right people. Right? I didn't have. But it really comes down to one thing for experts. And that one thing that is needed to get the fuel into the jet is engagement. If you really boil it down, it comes down to one thing. It's authority, it's engagement, right? Because like I said, we can have the best product. I know that, for instance, I have some great courses that I've created. I have things, and I wasn't get anywhere with them. But it's not because it wasn't great content. It's not because it wasn't something that could change someone's lives. It simply comes down to the fact that I didn't figure out how to create engagement, how to attract people to interact with. Think about a product on the shelf at the supermarket. We know that when a person reaches out and touches a product and puts it in their hand, that they're 40 to 60% more likely to purchase that item. And I know, DeMont, you know this because I've seen you do the Campbell soup there, and it takes me.
Yeah, talking about generic versus brand. Yeah.
But I think of you in that because I know that that's a different tactic there. But
no, that's that's very true.
And so, at the end of the day, we could boil it down to saying, again, 80% of businesses, the Small Business Administration, shows us that over 80% of businesses that go out of business, they say that it was due to a lack of consumer interest. But if we boil it also, what does that really mean? What it really means is a lack of ability to connect, to engage with the people who really want, need, and can use that thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And here today, digital marketing, I mean, and I know, DuMont, I mean, it must also be very frustrating for you at times because I know that we coach, a similar demographic, but around different things, right?
Yeah, and I think the point you're making, and one that I constantly have to reteach myself, is that engagement is really, it's at the center of everything. And I know that that's been a big topic through this summit because, putting content out there or not knowing how to engage people is going to cost you because all of the social platforms run on engagement. That's what they want to happen. So it's right in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. I mean, and so let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about, you mentioned social media. And so what does engagement look like on social media? So engagement as defined by social media really comes down to, we've all seen it, right? Cute kittens, right? So it comes down to likes. It comes down to responses like comments. And also, how long, and these are just some of the parts of the algorithm, right? So it's also how long do we hover on a certain thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's very important.
Right. Yeah. How long do we have that one thing? How long do we watch a certain video? Then the algorithm behind the scenes is when it one of my main projects right now is for my speaking is working with police, fire, and EMS as we're more people in police, more people in public service, more police officers, for instance, each year die from suicide than they do out on the streets actually working. And so one of the things that, the program that I'm working on right now is we're working to do our part to eliminate those emotional health challenges and tying that I had to go through in order to save my own life, to get back from Skid Row, overcome, another. And so I tend to now spend a lot of time on, I've got like the Firefighters Chronicles. I used to be a firefighter. I was in law enforcement myself. So I like that stuff anyway, right? So now, I've been spending a lot of time researching that and connecting with those things over the last couple of months. So now what do we think? What do I tend to see now and watch more on my Facebook feed? It's fire, EMS, and you see other stuff that comes along with it, right?
Right.
And it's the other things that I'll start to see. I see things that the algorithm knows that other people who are into those kinds of things, right? Who are reading like firefighting groups, police, EMS stuff, and then I start to see other stuff. I start to see ads for things that are relevant to that. I get these like trucking like things. I get like collision, like, there's it comes down to one thing. Like, what is Facebook using to determine that? And it comes down to engagement. The main thing here. It's what is Patrick Diamond engaging with? Is all this computer about? But I shouldn't say all, because the other thing that the whole algorithm cares about is how long can we keep him engaged?
They want people to stay on their platform.
Yes, that's exactly it.
That's the bottom line.
How much dopamine can we get to keep dumping out of this guy, right? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And so as entrepreneurs, we should take a cue from Facebook, and we should be doing the same thing. We have to, and I know you and I have talked a lot about this recently, the sell them what they want, give them what they need. It's such a critical key to entrepreneurial success, but it's also a very hard thing to kind of grasp, really hard. I mean, I struggle with it. So, and that's a lot of money to learn about. I know you have too.
Yeah. We're hoping we're reaching people who don't have to go where we went to get here, to help others, because we've both learned through kind of the school of hard knocks, and there was something in us that just said we weren't going to stray from our purpose. And believing that. And that's hard as an entrepreneur. I don't, I hear people say sometimes, well, you're your own boss. Well, yeah, that's true. But if you're working for another bad boss, you have to kind of look inward. So yeah, I do understand that.
If the boss hasn't figured some important things out, like how to get the fuel yet.
And if the boss keeps beating up herself.
And the boss is ready to jump out of the plane.
And take the computer with her.
Just throw the computer and then
right.
So that's something that I think we can take a cue from social media is they're selling us what we want, and they're taking what they need, right? And what we want, they see what we want, right? And then we get distracted by it. So it's cute kittens, or it's, for me right now, firefighting videos and mental health of firefighting. Like it sees that I want that, but it for them about what they need, and what they need is to make money. There's that whole thing. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. Yeah. Right. And that's the critical thing for anybody here listening to recognize, if you're an entrepreneur, is that you can be like them. Yeah. Right. But you're not going to be like them if you're relying on their platforms to engage with your audience, because it's good. Yeah. No, mind you, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be using these platforms. Right.
No, we should.
As our main way to engage with people doesn't work in the long run, because in order to get people to truly engage with us, what does that look like for us, right? What that really looks like is getting people onto our sales page. It looks like getting people to book a call. It looks like getting people to pick up the phone and call us.
Absolutely.
Opening our emails, going to our opt-in pages, registering for a webinar or a summit or an event. or a networking meeting or, buying our book or whatever it is in your area.
Yeah.
And what Facebook needs to live is to keep people on their platform. So it's literally, the algorithm is counting every second that we're on it. Anything that will take people off of it.
And of course, we know that for an entrepreneur, one of the biggest mistakes you can make in social media is never taking them off of that platform.
Yeah.
Because people get caught up in I'm messaging and I've got this size network and all of that. And some people make premature sales pitches. I think a lot of us know not to do that. But a lot of people just can't finesse that relationship enough to get people off the platform where they get to know us.
Yeah, and it's typically because they don't have a strategy that's fully baked or thought through. They're not focused on the main thing. I was on, it's been a couple months ago. I was on Kimberly Crow, a great, powerful entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
I know that you know her. And she's, got a rocket strapped to her back, but she has a Speakers Playhouse, which is where speakers come together and there's this weekly call. And I remember someone on that call, we went into breakouts and the person said, and was like, how can we support one another? And the person said, well, what I want is I think what he said was, I want to get 1,000 followers on Facebook. And we all said, okay, well, not all of us, but I think especially the most experienced entrepreneurs were like, okay, well, why? They couldn't answer it. That's obviously a problem. Again, that's where we're too focused on the plane and not the cargo.
Yeah.
Right? If we can't get the cargo, which is how we're going to change someone's perspective, their life, their or we're going to help them leave the earth being someone different or with the earth being something different than when they came.
Yes.
There's really nothing there, right? So when we think about that further, again, what we really need is our engagement that we need in order to get them that cargo, get them that is book a call, you schedule a meeting, whatever it might be for you. So the thing is, we must become that Facebook. We need to be able to use Facebook and Twitter, or X, whatever. Yeah. The platform formerly known as Twitter. We need to be able to use.
Which always makes me think of Harry Potter and he who could not be named, or he who would not be named.
I always think of the artist formerly known as Prince. But,
yes, exactly.
But your Facebook feed is going to look different than mine.
Absolutely.
Right. So we should be using those platforms as tools, but not as the way that we bring in our business, put the fuel in the jet so that we can continue to develop and move on. So what we need to be doing is creating that platform for ourselves. Because if we really think about it, I know for me, the way that I view the work that I do, and I know a lot of people listening to this are going to think of this the same way, and I think you do too, Jimon. For me, having, been homeless, having spent my 30th birthday in jail, having hit rock bottom multiple times, having ended up with nobody, getting to the point where I was seeing people in trees, right? Like all of these things, and really feeling like there was no return for me. I mean, I was to the point where I was planning what tree or what pole I was going to drive my motorcycle into as the easiest to just end everything. And in a way that would be nice and clean and easy, that the firefighters wouldn't have to have a big mess.
Exactly. But that's not the way we want to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was ready to jump out of the plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that because of all that, the way I look at the work I do now and what keeps me going is it's not a job, what I do now. It's a calling. Yeah. I went through all of that for a reason, and I'm grateful. Yes. And frankly, I put myself through it all for a reason. I look at it as like school. Okay, I'm not the only one, and I know there's people here that are going to be listening to this that are going to say, I can relate with that, who have a message, had to go through some shit to turn things around. They had to learn, and they had to learn doing. They had to build the plane while it was going down the runway, or they were going to crash.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if we go to our graves, and I'm speaking to that individual here who hears what I'm saying, and I know you hear what I'm saying, Dumont. The way I look at it is, if I go to my grave and I didn't do the damned best that I could to get these tools that I had to learn to save myself, and I do what I do for me as much as I do for others. I mean, I still have a lot to learn. I still, and I've been dedicated to this for the past 10 years, but at first I was dedicated to saving my life. So I had to find the things that worked. There were a lot of things that didn't. And so I filter. I now need to become that vessel. I need to get it out there and give it to other people. And like I said, no matter if someone listening to this might have, maybe what they're doing is it has to do with natural birthing processes, doing, and maybe it's because of experiences that they had with it. Maybe it's nutrition, right? Because the individual also was headed towards an early grave.
Yeah.
Someone was 300 pounds, right? And in order to turn things around, they had to learn, they had to adapt, they had to grow. They chose to do it the hard way, which is the only way. Yeah. They chose, for instance, not to go out and, take some diet pills, or maybe they tried that.
Yeah.
But they learned at the end of the day, like I learned, I tried it all. I had 21 different medications I was taking. I was put on permanent disability, told I would never work again.
Yeah.
Right? I was taking Lamictal, which is lithium, right? I was taking lorazepam. I was told I had all these different things. At the end of the day, all I had was a perspective issue.
Right.
And we, as the people who've gone through these things, the best way to help someone else learn and change their behavior is what? To model a different behavior. So we're very valuable, those of us walking around out there who have had some serious issues, figured stuff out, and did it the hard way. And who also had come to learn that there is no easy way.
That's true too. I mean, you have to put in the work, just not have the realization.
There are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
But we have to be able to, this goes back to that, sell them what they want, give them what they need. We have to be able to speak to the person looking for the shortcut. Help get them the relief they need and show them the best way to advance, right? I look at mine is to help someone take 10 years and compress it into 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? So if that's the product on the plane, right? If that's what we're getting on there, again, we have to get it out there. And so see, it's so much more than making money.
Yeah.
It's more than making money. There'll be some people maybe listening to this. It's like, no, I'm doing it for the money, but we know where that might end up. But at the end of the day, really, there's always a deeper why. And so what I really want people to think about, and I ask people, I say, think about it. What would happen if, knowing that I had to go all through this for a reason, right? And I'm not giving up because it means too much, no matter what happens, right? I'm not giving up. Because, even like yourself, you're doing the summit is a way to help people to get better at their branding and marketing. But
right. Absolutely.
What you really want to do is I believe, and of course you'll clarify, but what I view you really doing is you're helping people have freedom. You want to help people get their message out there because and I know, I know you, so I know you've been through some shit.
Sure.
And a way that for you and others who are doing this, is to, in marketing, for instance, you could either get out there and teach how to get through that shit, or say, I'm going to help amplify the messages of the people. That's two ways. There's many other ways. Yeah. So at the end of the day, your business doing better, you getting more clients, or, me, anybody out there doing this, what we're doing it for, really, what are we going to do with that money that comes in? We're going to amplify the message more. We're going to get better. We're not just going to take money. We don't just put it in the mattress.
Right.
We're going to use it to grow our business. So think about this. I mean, someone has that mindset, and people listening, like, if you could get 1 to 2 extra high-paying clients a month, 1 to 2, what does that correlate to? Sure, money-wise, but more importantly, what will life look like?
Mm-hmm.
So each month for 6 months, let's say you get one additional high-paying client a month for 6 months. I know me, right? That equates to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's that kind of a gain. Yes, just one to two clients would absolutely change a business, particularly those of us who are coaches or consultants, because that's what we do.
Yeah. And so transitioning that from what that 1 to 2, like the money of it, it's like, what will life look like then? And I like to actually take people through, and I like to actually visualize. It's like, okay, all right, imagine yourself waking up. You're living in that now. So that has happened. You have that money. You put your feet on the floor, like feel your feet touching the floor.
Yeah.
Look around.
Yeah.
Where are you? What are 3 words for how you're feeling?
Mm-hmm.
You get up and you're like, how do you feel differently? Walk to the window, look outside. Where are you at? Hey, go 3 years forward with having that happen.
Yeah.
Right? Now, of course, 3 years later, you've done all that. You're gonna have to make some changes, right? Because if you
there are going to be some tweaks.
If I were to get one of my high-end, high-paying clients a month, and in 3 years I would be dead without making changes, because I can't, I only have a certain number, right? But,
right, exactly, and you have to keep the math in your head. Even those of us who don't want to do it, we have to keep that in our heads.
Exactly. So it's important though to visualize that.
Mm-hmm.
And visualize the impact that we're making then, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. And I also, just a little side note here, for anybody who's listening, who maybe they're here because they're frustrated, maybe overwhelmed, maybe they're going through some stuff, right? There's seasons. Maybe they've been trying a strategy and it just doesn't seem to be, from their perspective, getting them the results they want right now.
Yeah.
Right? They feel like the engagement. Well, it's easy, and it can be easy to feel that way in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, though, you're moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And best way to get out of that, and you can do that right now. You can do that here, listening to this audio, and I encourage you after this to step back and to say, is what I just did, whatever it was, that thing that maybe we feel like was not getting us that track, or whatever we're doing, is, at the grand scheme of things, if I look back 3 years from now, and I say that thing, that I learned from it, and that it was an important part of getting me to where I am now, imagining that we're 3 years ago.
Yeah. And that's a totally different way of looking at it. But it really, that's a great gauge. Do I want to be feeling like this, 3 years from now? Seeing that gap.
Yeah. And will I, like planning? Yeah. It's really, it's saying, how am I going to be feeling then? Is how I'm feeling now in 3 years, am I even going to remember how I'm feeling now? Like, how this difficult thing, and was it worth it?
Yeah.
So.
But we do, many of us have done that the hard way.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is we don't want other people to go through that.
Yeah. And it all comes from firsthand experience, not just first.
Yeah, exactly. Those of us who have been on the earth a little while longer have actually, and I understand what you're saying. I can look back at things that seemed horrendous at the time, that seemed huge, insurmountable, and that made me really angry. Yeah. And now I can look, maybe I have a 30-year perspective on that incident, and I know that good came out of it. I learned something that didn't actually materialize, that I didn't understand until decades later. Was a true gift. Yeah.
And that's an important exercise just to generally take. I mean, what I had to learn was to accelerate that, to even to be able to be in the moment of that, of, in the suck, and being able to say, in 3 years, looking back on this, am I even going to remember this? Like, or no. But it's having that vision, right? We have to be very clear on that vision. So, so I invite everybody here, everybody listening, do that, put your feet on the floor, walk around the house, figure out where you're going, and hold on to that feeling. And and know that is what engagement gets you, right? So and going back to that engagement, we're talking about engagement strategy here. One of the reasons that you might feel frustrated, and a lot of people are feeling frustrated nowadays, is because the things that didn't or that worked before aren't working now, or that the things that people have told them they did to get where they are, then we're trying it and we're not getting the result.
Right.
Here's the thing. We just had the pandemic hit, and it changed a lot of things. It changed our behaviors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it also allowed platforms like Facebook and other social media to get a lot more data and bring us in even more. Doesn't matter which platform you're using. I'm using Facebook as an example, but
any of them, yeah.
Anyone, right? Even LinkedIn, for instance. And so what we now know is that mailing list open rates have significantly decreed since the pandemic.
It can be really depressing looking at it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
no matter how big your list, if they're not opening up the emails, you're not getting anything. And those times when it comes back and it says, the other one I like is, or I don't like, is when it comes back and a lot of people opened it, but nobody clicked. Nobody clicked through to see what you were telling them. And that's depressing.
Yes, because let's go back to it. Our mind knows knows at a base level that engagement equals income. Right. And especially if we're at the point where we've gone through our savings, we've maxed out our credit cards, right?
Been there, done that.
We're getting a little bit, it becomes even worse, right? Because we're focused on what's not working. You said it, click-through rates, those have also decreased. Engage with blogs, right? Written content, that's been decreasing for years. We're getting more and more people are finding that less people are showing up for webinars and for summits, And at the same time, we also know that based on data that people in North America are saying that they're spending 1 to 3 hours a day educating themselves. Okay. So they're not engaging with our content, the expert, but they still are educating themselves. So where are they? Right.
What's the disconnect?
Yeah. And which, it's the engagement. It's the way that we're engaging people.
Yeah.
And I would pick up my phone if I could, but I'm actually having to do this through it. So.
Exactly. But that's okay. That's okay. We are handling it.
That's a really great example. I have, my iMac right here. I have a MacBook, right? Over on the desk, and I was trying to get this link to work, but where am I? I was able to connect through my phone.
Yeah.
So 7 billion people are using smartphones. It's the fastest growing technology ever, and it has been for a long time, but we've just been focused on the things inside of it. And we don't pay as much attention to the actual hardware and how things are developing, right? And how are we doing on time, Jumont?
Oh, we're okay. We've got until 1:45.
Okay.
So we're doing pretty well. We've got 45 more minutes.
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks. I'm in Seattle, so I was doing the conversion.
Yes, we should explain that you just drove into Seattle.
Yeah. Yes, I spent 17 hours driving from LA to Seattle Thursday and Friday, and I barely know where I am. So, but I'll be here.
Well, you're here. That's where you are. You're here.
Here via the brilliant technology of a cell phone. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Come to. I mean, I remember having one of the first iPhones. And now today, and because of everything that's happened in the world in part, but here I am streaming, talking to you, right? You're in Cleveland, I'm in Seattle, right?
But we can do that.
I'm in Seattle because I want to experience living in Seattle. So I'm here on a exchange. And in large part, because of this device and the technology, I'm able to do that.
Absolutely.
So it gives me freedom. What do people want more than anything else is freedom.
Yes.
Where are the people? They're on their mobile devices.
Right.
We as the entrepreneurs, we as the experts, as the free thinkers, we need to be able to reach them in the way that they want.
Yes.
And what they want, 65% of people are saying that they prefer to study on apps. The thing is, get this.
65%.
65% study on apps. So here's the thing. This is, for some of you, this might be, I know it's frustrating for me, but people consider that where they're getting their education is from things like TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
But now...
And we have a TikTok expert speaking this afternoon.
Well,
I am not a TikTok expert. I know my limits.
The thing, so is that information, is that really, if you think about the topic that you teach on, or do you really want some person on TikTok who probably doesn't have the same why as you?
Yeah.
I know that in the beginning, when I had to study cognitive behavioral therapy and neurolinguistic programming and all that, and I started learning the things to help me, I share it. But you know what? Yeah, I probably had some good stuff, but I was by no means an expert. And I would still say, I'm no guru. Like none of us, I don't think we should consider ourselves gurus. But I know that 10 years in, I've got a lot more experience of teaching it than I did then. And it's something I've dedicated my life to. Do we want people, so as experts and professionals, do we want to be the ones that are getting that knowledge out there? Or would you rather just, some person in goodness knows where who just decided all of a sudden that they want to be nutritional experts, and they read a couple of blog posts and now they're out there telling everyone about it? Well, you may have fully educated yourself. You've taken all the classes, you've gone to school, you've coached hundreds of people. Like, who's more qualified?
Yeah. Who's
more qualified? Well, here's the thing. It doesn't freaking matter when it comes down to engagement. TikTok doesn't care. Facebook doesn't. Yeah. Facebook cares about Facebook.
Yeah. Right.
So again, we go back to that topic from that thing from earlier. It comes down to engagement.
Absolutely. And you brought up the pandemic briefly, and I think that mushroomed, or that amplified all of this, in terms of lack of engagement. And that's why I believe it was the Surgeon General said that loneliness was so big in this country right now. So people naturally want that engagement. But when we're on social platforms, and I love my social platform, but when we're on there, we have to figure out how to engage by their rules. We can try and use our best knowledge to get through that, but we are playing by their rules on their turf.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I talked earlier about focusing on the plane. Well, there's also such a thing as focusing, too much on the product. Mm-hmm. And in fact, maybe I should put it that way, that it's more, that we have to focus on the vehicle that's going to get us there, as well as putting fuel in it. Mm-hmm. Right. And it can be very easy to focus so much on our product, and we can be the absolute experts in it, but go back to that same thing. You've got someone who just read a couple of blog posts or saw CNN, do something, and then they have an opinion about it, and they start getting out there, and all of a sudden they've got 100,000 people who are listening to their ideas.
Yeah.
While we can be back in our workshop, fine tuning our course, right? But while we're doing that, there's people out there who have no business really, I have 20 years experience as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I have much more than that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's finding that individual where they are, and being able to, at a time when people are so worried about authenticity, that word was always a high keyword, but now it's a super high keyword, because people are worried about AI. They don't understand it. They're worried about, all these things that are happening. And learning new technologies or new ways to market isn't something that most of us do well. I mean, we go along, but we need new opportunities, and we need to know how to deal with this new and more challenging era when the things that we were using, like the social platforms, change so much that we're I think of it as almost so many people are concerned about gaming the system rather than as you said, flying the plane and getting there and getting it done, fueling it and all of that. Would that be a fair summary?
It sounds like, basically getting down to, the most important thing is getting it out there. Is engaging with people. That's it.
Yeah.
Because that's how the non-expert, the person without the experience, they don't need the experience. They just focus on engagement. They've learned how to engage people. They learned how to get an audience. Doesn't matter that they might not be the best person to speak to that audience.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't have any real experience in it. People are going to listen because they have figured out that engagement component. That's so important. That's why it's so important. And so the entrepreneurs out there, and I have the advantage of my tech background, right? And being a real geek. But there's a lot of people out there who are experts, coaches, authors, teachers, who have really important stuff to share, but they don't have that tech background.
Yeah.
And it can be really easy. And, I know that I can get overwhelmed by, and I mean, luckily now I have a lot more focus on what I need to focus on. I know that if I've gotten and can still sometimes get overwhelmed by how do I get all these followers and blah, blah, blah. I mean, with who is looking at tech like, oh my gosh, like I can barely turn my computer on. Then it's even harder, but it doesn't, we can't forget that person still has maybe the most important knowledge that hundreds or thousands of people need, right? They still have it. They still have the cargo. They just don't know how to get the plane off the ground.
Yeah. And so that leads me to the question of, in this time when, engagement has always been important, obviously, know, like, and trust and the whole thing. But how do we meet those challenges of people aren't opening our emails? And that's painful because we feel like we're turning out good stuff, but they're not opening it. They're never getting it. We work on social media platforms and you often get very conflicting advice on how to do these things. And if you have a tech background, you might be able to figure out something about the algorithms. But without that, the rest of us don't really know how to make that happen. And yes, I can help people make that happen on one platform, but I can't tell them how to fix that problem of engagement when people just aren't opening or aren't receiving, our gifts. And we can't help anybody if we don't engage with them.
Well, and that's that we need to know where the people are, right? That 65% of people, they're on their phones. And
that's
if we get if let's say that you've got a great let's say you've got a really great product, like I don't know, I'm just going to say you've got a head that is going to change the world. And so, and you just think, well, I don't know how to tell people about it, but I like to go to the mall, and I think I'll go to the mall, right? So, and I'm gonna set up a stand at the mall. Now, depending on what mall you're at, that might work. But for the most, going to the mall in 2023, 2024 is not the same thing as going 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
When engagement, that's just not where people are.
That's right.
So we have to find that. So that's we have to stop with the tactics, right? So before we come up with before we decide on a tactic, let's come up with a strategy. So imagine that person that wants to go to the mall to, now that might be a good tactic, but it depends on the strategy.
Right.
Right. If, for instance, if this headset is designed for people of a certain age and people who go to they're at the mall, and specifically in that age group and that demographic, then that might be. But first, ask the question.
But they're on their phones. They can go to the big A, Amazon, and and find most of that stuff. It's just a different process.
Yeah.
Whereas we once would have gone and we could actually put it on, put the earphones on, and test them out and everything. Now we do it online.
Yeah. And so, and to that point, if you're the type, if you're looking to just get to the people who don't shop online, that could actually be very lucrative, right? Yeah. But that would have to be your strategy. And most people don't.
Right.
And do all the research. Where are those people who aren't comfortable buying things online? Because then you can have a message that says, why, do you really want to trust your hearing to something from China that you can't? I mean, if you come up with it, sure. But at the end of the day, that's not most people's strategy, right? That's that tactic to go to the mall. So it comes down to, where are the people that I want to connect with? We know that people are on their phones. If you are an expert, if you're an author, a coach, a teacher, a consultant, I mean, people likely, where you're going to find your people, they're on their phones. They're on their phones. Right. Look around. They're in traffic on their damn phones, right? I mean, so
look at the dinner table with the family out, and they're all there on their phones. It has become, I think all of the studies I've seen are that, we take these to bed with us. I mean, they are everywhere. Yeah. So yeah. And I'm still not an expert with phones. I know how to use the systems that we use, but understanding
how the actual phone works. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to understand the technology. All I need is to use it.
Yeah.
And be able to use it.
Exactly. And let's talk. So you asked about, how do we get those people, basically? So what we know, the email lists aren't working like they used to. We know that we don't get the click-through rates. And that's in large part because it's a flood nowadays. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it used to be that we could go into our email boxes and we could easily, go through things. That's not the case anymore. And
I have thousands in my email. Yeah, I get that.
Here's another example. For instance, direct marketing, using the mail, like sending mail, is actually now a really great way for many people to market. Why?
Yeah.
It didn't, because everybody went online, and we now get it used to be we got so much junk mail, you just throw everything away, but we get less now. So see how that's even reversed. Now, like if, for instance, if you're a real estate investor or a realtor, like actually sending direct mail is now a really great way to do things. And that just, we have to be aware of how things are shifting. And that's kind of what's happening on our phones. It used to be that the emails work, but now it's so flooded that we can't be seen. But now there's something on the phone. You don't have to know how the phone works, but something called a push notification. So the push notification is kind of like that Amber Alert comes up, right? Or you get the Facebook notification that says so-and-so just had a, Slurpee at the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Notification that says it's going to rain tomorrow. Or you get a notification from, maybe you've got an app that helps you remember to drink water or take your medication or walk those banners that come up, the things that pop up.
And we do pay attention to them. They catch our eye, and we do pay attention to them.
Yeah. And that is what results in much higher conversion. So we know that when it comes to opt-ins, right? Email marketing, you're looking at between 5 and 55% of people are going to opt in who visit your site. But with push marketing, about 80% of people are going to opt in for those push notifications. Okay. So it's 50% on an iPhone and it's around 90% on an Android. People are going to say, yes, I'll allow notifications. So that means, so let's look at the two of those. So if you look at email marketing, that means that 5 out of 100 people who visit your site are going to join your list for you to send them emails. 5 out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the other side with that push market. That means that 50 to 80 out of 100 people who download your app are going to join that list and receive those notifications right there in a much smaller list. Okay.
Yeah.
But let's look at open rates. So with open rates, so we got them on the list. Now we got to get them to actually open things. Around 20% are going to open things. That's the average for the education and training market. Around 20% of people are going to open your emails. With push notifications, 90% are going to see the notification either immediately or later. 90%. Okay.
Such a big difference.
It's a huge difference. But but you know, let's look at, we have to keep going down the path. So now we get into click rates. So you talked earlier about actually people clicking and engaging further, right? We want to get them down the funnel. So around 2% are going to click after they read the email from email marketing, okay? The old way. The new way, push marketing, 25 to 40% are going to click and engage with that within an hour after they see your notification.
That's amazing. You know, when you think about that, that's amazing. You know, and what I love about it, Patrick, is, you know, normally, well, I grew up with desktops. I mean, that's where I am. But that person has to be at that desktop at that particular time in order to react in that amount of time. Whereas with your phone, everybody's, you know, it's seldom that I'm without my phone during the day. And absolutely, we do see those notifications. Yeah,
it's right there in your hand. It's buzzing, making sound. It's right there. It's like someone's doorbell. I mean, and think of it the old way, like emails. You know, I don't get notifications for emails. I have that turned off. It makes, you know.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
That's all. I have ADHD, and I have to be very careful about that.
About intruding thoughts.
Yeah. But that's all. We don't. That's a whole other thing. So,
that's a whole other story. Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at the math, though. Okay. I'm going to give you the scenario. Okay. Like you said, talked about the click rates. So you've got 10,000 people on your email list using the math that we just came up with, or that didn't come up with, that we know from the study, but that we talked about.
Right.
2% of people, around 2%, are going to click through. Okay. So that's about 200 people are going to click through. But let's say, so that's for 10,000 people on your list. So let's say that you focus, though, on just getting 1,000 people onto your push list. Just 1,000 at that 40% click rate. 320 engagements. Now, you had to work really hard to get 10,000 people. And out of that 10,000 people, now you're getting 200. Or you worked hard to get 1,000 and you got 320 people. What do you think you should put your focus on, right? Building an email list of 10,000 or getting people to download your app and have 1,000 people on your list and getting 320 people. That's 16 times. That's 16 times higher engagement.
Yeah. And that's just a staggering figure. And I remember that's what first struck me when I heard that, because I had never seen the advantages, you know, and now I get it, but it took me a while, Patrick. I was a slow learner on this.
Yeah. And so, and I bear, you know, let's look at that again. So again, you can either spend your time, energy, and focus on building an email list to 10,000.
And that takes a tremendous amount of work to get that list to 10,000.
Right. So you can either spend your time to build an email list to 10,000, right, using the older methods of getting people to engage. With that 2% click rate, you get 200 people to engage, or you can spend your time with your own app getting 1,000 people on your list. And because 40% are going to click through, that means you're getting 320 people engaging. So, you know, that's 16 times better engagement. Where do you want to put your focus? On the old method of building your email list with 10,000 people, or just build 1,000 through your own app?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us felt, Patrick. I mean, we know that apps are successful because we use them. You know, we have them, but I think a lot of people think that this is a technology that they'll never understand. that they'll never be able to get, because it is this, technology is evolving so rapidly that I think people are worried about, just not being able to make it work. How do I do this? Who can help me go through?